What are some of the dumbest scams that scammers actually try to get away with? Let's find out and get right to it with number 6, Robinhood. James Parker found a glitch in a cryptocurrency website, and he used that glitch to exploit millions of pounds in Bitcoin. But he didn't carry out the scam alone. He had multiple accomplices who helped him steal the money. But here's the thing. Both James Parker and his accomplices oddly had no idea of what to do with a lot of money. So they spent the money on a lot of nonsense. They even started just giving the money away. One of them, William Boyce, took £1 million in a suitcase to buy a villa from Russians that he met in the back office of a real estate agent. He also paid corrupt officials off with £60,000 so that he could continue his money laundering. James Parker, the leader of the gang, had so much cash that he resorted to giving it out. He bought multiple £5,000 gift cards and started giving them out on the street. He also started tipping taxi drivers as high as £50. Finally, he bought cars for about 20 people, including random people he'd met in the bar. He was a Bitcoin Robin Hood. The only difference was that he wasn't very good at archery, and also probably didn't look great in tights. The scam itself was fairly simple. Parker stumbled upon a loophole in an Australian-based cryptocurrency exchange. This allowed him to withdraw other people's Bitcoin to his account and sell it for money. The loophole was so well hidden that Parker used it for 3 months and was able to withdraw a total of £15 million. After withdrawing the money, Parker got a band of merry men and women together. This gang helped him to launder the money and use it to purchase properties. Unfortunately for Parker, his luck wasn't going to hold forever. One of the members of his crew, Kelly Caton, reported to the police that her daughter had stolen her Bitcoin. At the time, it was worth about £75,000. The amount piqued the interest of the police, and they began to wonder how Caton got so much money. This launched an international investigation that culminated in the arrest of Parker. By the time the police arrested him, Parker gained a reputation as a generous Bitcoin millionaire. In the end, all the members of the gang were found guilty of fraud. Tragically, James Parker died before the trial could be concluded. The rest of the gang got appropriate sentences for the role they played in the scheme. Number 5. The 100 million sandwich. 3 men were accused of inflating the values of publicly traded companies to seek out merger partners for the companies. The first man is Peter Coker Sr., an elderly man who also happens to be the father of another member of the group, Peter Coker Jr. The third member of the group is James Patten. These 3 stooges hatched a plan to inflate the value of 2 publicly traded companies called Hometown International and E-Waste. Hometown International, at the time of the merger, only had a deli and $40,000 in sales revenue to its name. E-Waste, on the other hand, had no discernible business to speak of. Despite the nature of both companies' income, they both ended up with a combined value of over $100 million. The Cokers carried out this scheme by making it appear that Hometown International had more shareholders than it did. Coker Jr. was the CEO of the company, and Coker Sr. was a large shareholder. Patten, on the other hand, was just someone who had business relationships with the Cokers. The 3 stooges kicked off their plan to inflate the company's value by giving shares to family members. They gave shares to associates and friends, including those overseas. Everyone was getting shares, and the company's value was rising like an inflatable balloon. The family did the same for E-Waste, and they traded the shares back and forth among themselves to inflate their real price. The goal of the inflation was to get the companies to merge with other companies because of their stock market value. According to officials, these men were able to inflate the value of Hometown and E-Waste by 939% and 19,900% respectively. Unfortunately for our stooges, escapades like that just don't go undiscovered. People were always going to figure out there was something unnatural about a business with just one deli being worth almost $100 million. By 2021, news reports discovered that a company with just one deli to its name was worth around $100 million. This was such a clear anomaly that David Einhorn, a hedge fund manager, joked that the pastrami at the deli must be heavenly. In any case, the reports alerted the police and the SEC to the scheme, and they immediately investigated the case. Their investigations revealed the shady dealings going on behind the scenes, and the police immediately moved to arrest the Stooges. Patten and Coker Sr. were immediately detained. However, Coker Jr. was at large for a short while. According to reports, he was in Thailand and had no intentions of coming back voluntarily to take a bite of his justice sandwich. So the police did the next best thing. They alerted the Bangkok police, who found Coker Jr. He was arrested and then extradited to the U.S. The three men faced charges ranging from conspiracy to manipulating securities prices. If found guilty, the Three Stooges could face multiple 20-year maximum sentences. And worst of all, no more pastrami on rye. Number 4. Skating into a scam. Allison Marie Baver is a former Olympic speed skater who was accused of lying on loan applications to receive millions of dollars in COVID-19 funds. But Baver isn't just an Olympic-level speed skater. She also owns an entertainment company. The name of her company is Allison Baver Entertainment and promotes itself as a purpose-driven film and television company. Apparently, Baver submitted tons of loan applications in April 2020. The applications were for a $10 million relief fund for her entertainment company. In each request for funds, she claimed that her payroll was almost $5 million. In reality, it was nothing at all. Baver wasn't just the owner of a showbiz company. She also directed her own fictional reality where she told whatever lies she wanted. She claimed that her company was big enough to employ between 100 and 430 workers, but that was just fiction. Federal prosecutors discovered that not only was the company not big enough to employ even 100 people, but it didn't employ anyone at all. However, Baver still got over $10 million from her scam. To her credit, she didn't just spend all of the money on houses and a lavish lifestyle. Baver actually spent some of it on her business. She transferred about $150,000 of the $10 million to the production company behind No Man of God, starring actor Elijah Wood, about serial killer Ted Bundy. That represents about 1.5% of the actual loot she got from the government. Well, at least she spent part of it on real work, right? She also made an uncredited appearance in the movie, which is great value for $150,000 if you think of it. Unfortunately for Baver, she could speed skate but couldn't hide, and Johnny Law finally caught up with her. She's now facing 9 charges related to fraud and is yet to enter a plea concerning them. Be careful of the company you keep, Mr. Frodo. Number 3. The COVID House. Don Victor Cisternino is a failed lawyer and music executive from Florida who is accused of stealing over $7 million in COVID-19 relief funds. Cisternino stole the funds through phony claims that his company, Magnifico Incorporated, had a monthly payroll of over $2.8 million. He also claimed that the company carried 441 employees. The real number of Magnifico Incorporated employees was much less magnificent than the company's name might suggest. Instead of 441 employees, Cisternino had 0 employees. When our music executive got the funds, he did what any music executive would have done. He used it to upgrade his lifestyle. First off, he bought a 12,500 square foot, $3.5 million mansion on a 12-acre estate. The house was a work of art and had everything from a mobile theater to a 5-stable horse barn. After buying his mansion, Cisternino decided he needed lavish cars to go with the image. So he purchased a Mercedes Maybach S650X, a Lincoln Navigator, and paid off a loan for a Maserati. In total, he spent about $389,000 on buying luxury cars. Cisternino thought he was going to live out his life very comfortably, but people talk. Cisternino's lavish lifestyle soon got tongues wagging, and those tongues tipped off the police. But Cisternino didn't wait around for the police to arrest him. Once he got word of the police investigation, he fled to Switzerland. Once in Switzerland, Cisternino started traveling across Europe. He did this for 3 months before he got arrested in Croatia. At one point during his travels, Cisternino tried to claim asylum in Ireland, but the Irish government didn't buy the corned beef he was hashing. An international warrant for his arrest was ultimately what caught the music executive. Once he landed on U.S. shores, Cisternino realized that his song was over. He pled guilty to his crimes and waited for his sentencing. Before he was sentenced, the lawyers claimed that Cisternino was not a fraud. Instead, he was pushed to make fraudulent decisions by his addiction to Adderall. They also claimed he was jealous of his more successful family members. Finally, Sister Nino's lawyers also said that the fact that their client had bought all his properties in his name proved that he wasn't trying to hide anything. If that were true, you might wonder why he decided to take a 3-month police evading trip to Europe then. And so did the judge. No weight was given to Sister Nino's nonsense excuses. He was eventually sentenced to 8.5 years in prison and ordered to pay restitution of more than $7 million to the government as part of his punishment. Number 2. Social media never lies. Anthony Ragusa was arrested for claiming $200,000 in disability benefits mainly because he was not disabled. And how did the police find out that he was not disabled? Simple. He told on himself. Ragusa was making loads of money from the government. He claimed that he suffered a fall in 2013 while working as an electrician and that this fall meant he couldn't work. Ragusa claimed that the injuries he suffered were so severe that he couldn't even bend down to put on his shoes. His claim was successful, and Ragusa began collecting thousands of dollars in disability payments. He collected these payments while also owning and earning income from a limousine business in New Hyde Park on Long Island. Ragusa would have gotten away with his grift if he hadn't picked up 2 peculiar hobbies. The first was bodybuilding, and the second was appearing in social media videos. In 2017, Ragusa's wife, who was a trainer, began to post videos of Ragusa transforming into a bodybuilder. The videos were posted on Instagram and show Ragusa lifting weights at a Long Island gym known as the Mecca for bodybuilders. Interestingly, his wife even tagged Ragusa's limousine business account in the videos. This showed beyond a reasonable doubt that Ragusa had been defrauding the state. He was eventually caught by the police and made to face the law. In the end, he was charged with 1 felony count of grand larceny and 1 felony count of offering a false instrument for filing. Ragusa had no defense for his behavior, so he had to plead guilty and was sentenced to pay $200,000 in restitution to the Social Security Administration. If he fails to pay the restitution, he could be sentenced to 3 years in prison. However, we somehow don't think Ragusa would mind prison too much as long as it had weights for him to lift. Number 1. Don't bank with her. Selena Saab was accused of stealing the personal details of at least 85 people and leaking them to a friend. This was done in a bid to file COVID claims and defraud the state. The scam was a basic identity theft scheme. Saab was a civil servant working with the welfare arm of the Australian government when she stole the details of 85 Australians and sent them to one Salim Merheb through a messaging service. Merheb then used details to lodge a series of fraudulent applications for government relief. These fraudulent applications were then approved, and Merheb defrauded the government of about $150,000. Merheb used different strategies to get money from the government. First, he claimed Australian government disaster recovery payments. This paid out about $1,000 to every flood disaster victim. Then he claimed COVID disaster payments, which paid out about $200 to $750 per week. He next submitted claims for pandemic leave disaster payments, which paid about $750 to adults who could not work because of COVID. Unfortunately for Merheb, he was always going to get caught. The police eventually discovered the scam and his home was raided. However, even after his home was raided and evidence of his crimes was seized, he continued to offend. Saab was also arrested in relation to the crimes and was subsequently granted bail. Merheb was charged with possessing proceeds of crime and obtaining financial advantage through deception. Saab was charged with dealing in identification information and using it to commit fraud. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section what's the craziest scam you've heard a friend you know falling for.